Hey everyone, thank you so much for joining in and welcome to Edureka webinars. So team, in today's session, we'll be looking into the Chat GPT. What exactly is this Chat GPT? How can you get started? And what's the best way to learn this Chat GPT? So we will learn everything in detail as we progress in today's session. Let's get started team. So when we talk about this Chat GPT, okay, so it's an AI or an artificial intelligence which is capable of interacting with the human. Now, everyone wants to know about this chat GPT right now. But the question is, how can you get started with this chat GPT? That's the key thing that everyone has. Well, let's do one thing. Let's set the agenda with the help of chat GPT itself. I've got the chat GPT with me. Okay. So let's do one thing. Let's ask the chat GPT itself as, how do I get started with chat GPT? So I'll say, how can I learn chat GPT? So I'm giving the input in an English language, and the chat GPT is responding me in an interactive manner. It says, as a language model, chat GPT is designed to be able to understand and respond to the wide range of questions and the statements in natural language. What is natural language? It's the language that we humans speak. And it says, here are some tips as how you can interact with ChatGPT. You can ask question, you can experiment with various phrasing, you can use the natural language, provide the context, and as well as evaluation of these responses. Like I've got an option to regenerate the response. So here you can regenerate the response and get to know about the same. See, the way that you can learn this ChatGPT, as you can clearly see, it says familiarize yourself with your capabilities, read the ChatGPT's response carefully, experiment with various inputs, provide the feedback, and practice having the conversation with ChatGPT. That's the best way to learn the ChatGPT. Now, to help you progress and to master this topic of ChatGPT, here at Edureka, we believe in taking you and preparing you to the industry level expectation. And we've got a course on ChatGPT. So the course is ChatGPT complete course for beginners to the advanced. So make a note of it and register yourself to get started in your learning journey with this ChatGPT. Okay, so let's get started, team. And now coming back to our session's agenda. So what exactly is this chat GPT and why is it so relevant for us in the current world? Now, chat GPT was launched by a company called OpenAI. So OpenAI is the company who launched this chat GPT. So here in this chat GPT, so what we can observe right now is that, so this was launched by OpenAI on the period of December 1, okay? And this is a chat interface to a large language model, which has been trained to act as an assistant, answer the question, as well as perform a wide range of tasks. Now here, after you create an account with OpenAI, so you can access this chat GPT model for free. It's a language model. And we have seen some of the greater things, and most of the users have actually shown the capability of this chat GPT within the 5 days of launch itself. If I want to give you the statistics, so within just 5 days of launch of this chat GPT, so more than 1 million users have been testing this and they have been sharing the results. So let's look into the details of this model and some of the interesting results that we can expect. So let's start with the motivation. What is the motivation of launching this chat GPT? We'll just start from there. So this chat GPT model that has been launched. So this is not the first model that has been launched by this OpenAI. They have actually launched multiple models, language models, which is used in the NLP world for greater amount of time. Now, the previous model, which they had actually released, it was about the GPT-3. Okay, the GPT-3 was the model that was launched earlier than this chat GPT. So here, if you look into this site of this announcement post that has been made by this OpenAI team, the GPT-3 model often missed the user's intent or the user's idea, what exactly is happening over there. And another thing is, so like they have clearly mentioned that they have trained the model called ChatGPT, which interacts in a conversational way. And the dialogue format makes it possible for ChatGPT to answer the follow-up question, admit its mistake, challenge the incorrect premises, and reject the inappropriate request. And it clearly says this ChatGPT is sibling model to InstructGPT. And they have given the link to the InstructGPT. So they have actually explained about the main challenge, and they have also given some examples as well. And they have actually explained how exactly this model has been trained. We'll come to that very shortly. So here it says ChatGPT is a fine-tuned from a model in this GPT 3.5 series, which finished training in the early 2022. And they have actually mentioned about the details, and they were actually trained on Azure AI supercomputing infrastructure. So that's the high level details about this ChatGPT. So one key thing that we can understand right now is this ChatGPT uses the GPT 3.5 as a base. And this has been trained through InstructGPT. Now, here, if I go to this InstructGPT, so they have actually shown the research paper. So if we can click on this read paper, which takes us to the research paper, which describes about the InstructGPT, about the model where this ChatGPT was actually based on. So here, if you look into the high level details, okay, training the language models to follow the instruction with the human feedback. So the idea is making the language model bigger, which does not inherently make them better at following the user's intent. For example, when we have a large language model which can generate the output, it could be untruthful, toxic, or simply not helpful for the user. In other words, these models, that language model which we'll be training, they may not be aligned with their users. So in this research paper, so they have actually shown an avenue of aligning the language models with the user's intent on the wide range of tasks by performing the fine tuning with the help of human feedback, which means in order to build an effective chatbot, you cannot just depend on the technical stuff and resulting in the model which gives us the output which is not in line with the expectation. It clearly says that. So it's all about aligning with the user's intent and the user's requirement. And that's where they are saying that they have performed the activity of fine tuning with the help of human feedback. So what they have done is, with a set of labeler written prompts and the prompts that are submitted through OpenAI API, so they have actually collected the data set of labeler demonstration of the desired model behavior. Using that, they have actually performed their fine tuning on the GPT-3 using the supervised learning technique. Then they have collected the data set of rankings of model input, which they have used it to further fine tune it. Then they have used this supervised machine learning model. They have tuned it with the help of the reinforcement learning technique from the human feedback. So this resulting model is called as the InstructGPT, which means that ChatGPT that we are talking about, as I mentioned, it's a close sibling of this InstructGPT, and this InstructGPT is trained on supervised learning. On top of this, the reinforcement learning, where we have done the fine tuning to get the amazing outcome. So this InstructGPT model has 1.3 billion parameters, and they are preferred to the outputs from 175 billion GPT-3 model, despite having 100 times lesser parameters. So the idea is simple, team. So the GPT-3 model which they had, it had 175 billion parameters, which was very complex. Now they have tried to simplify it with this InstructGPT, and this now has just 1.3 billion parameters only, which is 100 times lesser. Even though it's 100 times lesser, the parameters that we have got, it is still a preferred one. Now you might be wondering, okay, so how exactly this training has been done? Well, the training of this ChatGPT done is with the help of these 3 steps. Step 1, we will collect the demonstration data and train a supervised policy. So we will get a prompt that is sampled from the prompt data set, that is from our text data set that we have got. And then we'll have a labeler which demonstrate the desired output behavior, which is a very simple supervised learning task. And then this data is used to fine tune the GPT 3.5 with supervised learning. Then we will collect the comparison data, and then we are going to train a reward model. Okay, so we are going to train a reward model. So here, to create a reward model for reinforcement learning, we actually needed to collect the comparison data, which considered for 2 or more model responses, which are ranked by quality. And to collect this data, so they have actually taken the conversation from AI trainers, like they were actually taken from the AI trainers had with the chatbot. Then they have actually randomly selected a model. They have actually selected the model return message, sampled several alternative completion, which AI trainers would rank them. And at the end, the humans will compare the answers and choose what they like the best. And as a result of this is going to create a reward model, which is a smaller version of GPT, which takes in a prompt and multiple generated answers as input and predicts which answer a human will prefer. And this is built using an algorithm or a system that is called as the RLHF system. RLHF is the system, okay, that is being used. And the way this system looks like is, so here RLHF system is also known as the reinforcement learning system. So what happens is, so it's a reinforcement learning algorithm. So we will have an RL algorithm, and we'll have an environment. So when we talk about any reinforcement learning algorithm, we'll have an environment and then reinforcement learning algorithm. We'll have an observation. So the observation will be observed from the environment by the reinforcement learning algorithm. When it takes an action, it changes the state in the environment. And depending on the changes in the state in the environment, we will have a reward function. We call it as a reward predictor. We will have a reward function which is going to decide the overall reward. So here, when we are having the reward predictor, we also have a human in the loop. So we'll have something called as a human feedback. So with this human feedback, so we'll be predicting the reward. So this is the overall architecture from the technical side as how it actually works. So the reinforcement learning algorithm occasionally will ask a human observer to choose between the various generated outcome. The AI gradually builds a model of the goal of the human task by finding the reward function which best explains the human segment. So it then uses this reinforcement learning algorithm to achieve the goal. So that's the overall idea. And we have the human with the help of human feedback. So we will be generating the overall prediction. Okay, so that's the overall idea about this humans in the loop. All right. Then the third step is about the fine tuning the model with reinforcement learning. So the reward model that we have got, so it now acts as a human labeler. So we feed in that prompts to the GPT and we are going to receive an answer. And then we are going to ask the reward model to score the prompt and the answer pair. Now this score is then used as a feedback for the GPT, which is controlled by a reinforcement algorithm, which is called as PPO, which you see right now. The PPO model is used. PPO is nothing but proximal policy optimization. So this score is used as feedback and which is controlled by this reinforcement algorithm team. So that's the overall idea. Okay. So supervised learning technique, reinforcement learning with fine tuning with human feedback. That's the overall way in which the ChatGPT has been trained. I know this sounds completely technical, but this is just to give you an overall idea about how exactly this ChatGPT has been trained. But let me tell you, to interact with this chatbot, to get started with this chatbot, you don't have to know about all these things. So you can easily get started by creating your account with OpenAI, and you can get started by interacting with the chatbot. Now, let me show some of the interesting things which we can do it with the help of chatbot. Okay. So here, when we talk about this chatbot, so we have started already. So I can click on new chat to get started with the new chat. And here, this is the initial screen of this chatbot, that is the ChatGPT. So here it gives us some of the example about things that we can ask the ChatGPT. So examples can be explain quantum computing in simpler terms. Got any creative ideas for 10-year-olds per day? How do I make an HTTP request in JavaScript? So you can ask the ChatGPT anything. That's the overall examples that they're trying to tell us. And the capabilities of this ChatGPT would involve it remembers what user said earlier in the conversation, which means it has the ability to remember the human context. Okay. It allows the user to provide the follow-up corrections. It is trained to decline the inappropriate request. And there are some limitations of this chatbot right now. So some of the limitations would include it may occasionally generate incorrect information. It may occasionally produce harmful instruction or biased content. And it has got limited knowledge of the world and events after 2021. So these are some of the limitations that we have got with this chatbot. So here, overall idea I would say is, so this ChatGPT is capable of getting the inputs in the natural language. So generally, what happens in the machine learning or in any general senses, all the machine learning model or the deep learning models, as a data scientist, we have to process the data and convert the non-number data, non-numerical data into a numerical data to before we process it with the help of machine learning models. That means it expects the data in a structured format. Now, this ChatGPT is a model which is capable of analyzing what is happening on the natural language itself. For example, I'm going to write it like this. What is the capital of India? So if I mention the capital, if I request this question as what is the capital of India? So the chat GPT is able to provide the response in an English language saying that the capital of India is New Delhi. And that's the best part. And here, if you think about the capabilities of the human being. So when I say, suppose if I've got a sentence that says that the dog is very tired. It is crossing the road. It is crossing the road. Suppose if I have a sentence like this, and if I ask you, what is the word it is referring to? As a human being, it's very easy for us to connect that, okay, this word it is actually referring to the word dog. It is very easier for us. It comes as a second nature. But we had challenges in establishing this context that is able to models to remember the context. So till now, we've been using the various kinds of neural network architecture. We've been using the RNN neural network, LSTM neural network, GRU neural network, and then we have actually seen some of the greater movement in the NLP world, like the concept of attention mechanism, pre-trained models, and with the help of attention and pre-trained models, there came the transformer architecture. And from this transformer architecture, so including the transformer and the attention mechanism, including the pre-trained, so we got this chat GPT and the overall language models that you see right now. Okay, so these chat GPT now has the ability to remember the context, and we have not got any official confirmation from the OpenAI yet, but as per the various results, as per the various tests that have been conducted by various users, so ChatGPT has the capability to remember the context over 16 medium-sized paragraph. Okay, so that's one of the key thing that we observe with this ChatGPT. And here you can ask the ChatGPT about anything. I mean, like here when we talk about this ChatGPT, you can also ask the questions related to the technical as well. So for example, I can say that I want you to act as Linux terminal, and I will type the command. You will respond with results that show. So we can, so it says, so sure, I can act as a Linux terminal. Please go ahead and type your command. I'll respond with the appropriate result. So to give you an example, I'll say ls-a. So this is the Linux command. So it says ls-a command lists all the files that are present in the current working directory. See what it like here, like I mentioned to this ChatGPT that act as a Linux terminal. And I have mentioned that I will type the command and you should respond me with the results that show as if I'm actually executing that command. So I've mentioned as ls-a, and it says that it is going to list all the files and directories in the current working directory, including the hidden files. And this is the example. And that's the same thing that you would observe in your Linux terminal as well. So for example, if I say ls-a, see, I'm able to view the output in my terminal. Just like we will see the output in the terminal, we are observing the similar code right now. Okay, and if I say pwd, that's my present working directory. So pwd stands for the present working directory, and it is displaying what is my present working directory from the bash. And if I execute the same in my terminal, see, I'm getting the similar output as if I'm executing in my terminal. And along with the help, it is displaying for me. Okay, suppose if I say cat, okay, the cat is the command, and I'll say file.txt. So it explains, okay, cat command is used to display the contents of the file on the terminal. So it gives us the complete information. And not just this is just one example that I'm showing to you. And let's say that I want to generate the code for deep learning. I'll say, build me an image classifier model with TensorFlow. So I'm asking the model ChatGPT to build an image classifier model with TensorFlow. And it says, so what is the steps that I have to follow? Okay, I'll have to prepare the data and define my model architecture, compile the model, train the model, and it is also asking me to evaluate the model and finally generate the predictions. So these are the general steps to build a image classification model with TensorFlow. Now I'll give one more command that says as show me the code for a convolutional neural network. Convolutional neural network is a type of network that we use it to perform the activity of image classification. Now I'm asking it to create me a code to build a simple convolutional neural network for image classification using TensorFlow and Keras. And you can clearly observe it is writing the code for me. See, it has written the complete code for my convolutional neural network architecture. I now have to just copy this code and specify where exactly my training data set is, validation data set is, and mention the number of epochs. And I can just include it in my code and I can just start working as well. Okay, it's not just that. So you can, like, I'm just giving you an example. So let's say, what is the database? What is the command to delete the table from MySQL database? So we can ask anything. So it says to delete a table from the MySQL database, you can use drop table command, and it also tells us the exact command. So you can clearly observe that how the ChatGPT is able to do. Okay, And you can also say that, let me just give you an example. What is the distance between Mysore to Bangalore? So that's the input that I'll give right now. Okay. So it says Mysore to Bangalore is 145 kilometers or 90 miles by road. And I'll say, what is the best hotel for travel? So I'm asking as what is the best hotel to have lunch? So it says, yeah, it does not have the real-time information. So the best, so it says, like, as it clearly says, it still does not have the entire capability, but yeah, it says, I suggest using the online platforms or local food guides to research and find the best options based on your specific needs and preference. Okay, and it also says, recommends to ask locals or friends who are familiar with that area. So as you can clearly see, ChatGPT is an advanced AI model, which can be applied for wide range of domains and wide range of tasks. And that is the reason the ChatGPT course has been designed in such a way that you can get the most of this ChatGPT. And if you look into the overall content, see, if you look into the overall content of this chat GPT, you will first understand about the technicalities about this chat GPT, the applications of chat GPT, and how you can get started with this OpenAI and how you can set up your environment. And you will also learn about the previous generation models where the chat GPT is the latest model, but you'll also look into the previous generation models like GPT-2 and GPT-3 and explore the various use cases of chat GPT. And this would include using the chat GPT for live coding, as I've shown you in some of the examples, how you can build and optimize scale business using the chat GPT. Advanced SEO for digital marketers, creating the social media post with chat GPT, using the chat GPT for language translation, YouTube scripts, code generation, code debugging with chat GPT, content creation with chat GPT, question answering, sentiment analysis. And not just that, you'll also learn about how you can develop the web application using the chat GPT. So how you can build a web development architecture, building the back end, setting up the database, and setting up a React based client side application, how to write a API request to MongoDB with Express and React, how you can fetch and update the database with MongoDB, routing to React based applications, debugging and client-side coding, how you can deploy and integrate the ChatGPT in business application, like how you can integrate the ChatGPT with Power Automate, how you can integrate ChatGPT with Power Apps, how you can integrate with Outlook, how you can integrate it with this various cloud platform. And not just that, you'll also learn about the previous generation models, like how to work with GPT models, and these are all the self-paced modules which you're getting as an additional bonus. So where you'll be learning about the language models, the idea about this language model, how it is actually trained, and you will look into the GPT models, its advantages, its architecture, disadvantages, and how you can prepare the data, how to train this chat GPT, hyperparameter tuning, and how to work with this GPT-3, which is the previous version of ChatGPT, and how you can work with the playground and how to get the complete picture of working with the language model, how to build and deploy GPT-3 powered applications, how you can build a real world application with OpenAI and ChatGPT, and the best practices, limitations, and the avenues of future development. So you'll be learning everything in detail so that you get the complete picture by completing this overall learning journey of ChatGPT with this Edureka program. So let me just give you an overall idea about this transformer architecture. So I'll say, what is transformer NLP? So transformer NLP, it's a deep learning architecture. Okay. So this is one of the architecture which has changed the way in which that we started dealing with the text data. And if I ask the same thing to the chat GPT and it is providing the answer for me, so it has been described in the research paper of attention is all you need. It's a neural network architecture which has been used successfully in the NLP task like language translation, text summarization, and the question answering. So the architecture of this transformer is based on the mechanism called self-attention. So this is going to allow the model to weigh the importance of various words in my given sentence whenever it is performing the processing. And as a result of this, this will allow the model to capture some of the complex and the nuanced relationship between the words in a sentence compared to the traditional NLP models. So that's the core idea behind this transformer technique. So this model consists of encoder and a decoder, both of which uses the self-attention mechanism to process the input data. So the encoder takes in the input text and produces the hidden representation of the text, and which will be used by the decoder to generate the output text. The major advantage of this transformer architecture is that it can process the input text in parallel, and it will allow you for faster training and the inference time compared to the traditional NLP models that we have, which process the data in a sequential manner. So when we say the models, traditional models, it would include the RNN or LSTM. Compared to that, so NLP, the transformer architecture is much faster because the training will happen in parallel. And as a result of this, this has resulted in significant improvement in the NLP performance, and it has made it one of the most widely used deep learning architecture for the NLP task. Now, if you look into the GPT-3 model, so I'll say, what is GPT-3 model? So what is OpenAI GPT-3 model? So here, OpenAI GPT-3 model. What is GPT? GPT is generative pre-trained transformer. It's a state-of-the-art language processing model which is developed by OpenAI, and it's one of the largest and the most powerful language models that is currently available, and this has got 175 billion parameters, as we have seen at the start of the session. It's a neural network based language model. Here this has been pre-trained on a massive corpus of diverse text data, and this is capable of performing the wide range of NLP tasks, including language translation, question answering, text completion, summarization, and more. One of the major features of this GPT-3 is its ability to perform zero-shot learning, which means here it can generate the text in response to a prompt without any specific training on the task. And this has generated significant interest and attention from researchers. So because of its capabilities, and that's the overall idea about this GPT-3 model, which is also a language model. And then we have, I think we have also looked into the another term called Instruct GPT. So you can also ask the same, what is Instruct GPT? So it says, yeah. Okay, so it says that, if you remember, it has mentioned that this chat GPT is mentioned from the cutoff date, and it looks like the Instruct GPT is the one that has been published later. It has been published in the year of 4th March 2022, and hence the chat GPT model is not able to answer. It says Instruct GPT is a new project from OpenAI that has not been efficiently released yet because its knowledge cutoff date is September 2021. Okay, is a new NLP model from OpenAI that aims to generate the instructional text based on the NLP inputs. So this will be trained on a more structured data set, which includes instructional text with annotated steps and outcome. That's the overall idea, team. All right. I hope you now have got a clear idea about the capabilities of ChatGPT and the best part about this ChatGPT and the various applications of ChatGPT. So I really wish you all the very best for your upcoming learning journey. So thank you so much, everyone. Take care.
I hope you have enjoyed listening to this video. Please be kind enough to like it, and you can comment any of your doubts and queries, and we will reply them at the earliest. Do look out for more videos in our playlist and subscribe to Edureka channel to learn more. Happy learning!